First Contact's folly. The Galactic Empire's arrival was meant to be terrifying. Their warships, sleek black vessels stretching for kilometers across Earth's sky, were designed to inspire dread. As they positioned themselves above every major city on the planet, Supreme Commander Vexthor stood proudly on his bridge, awaiting the inevitable panic and surrender broadcasts. Instead, he got memes. "Sir," his communication officer reported, confusion evident in his multi-tone voice. "The humans are responding with images. Millions of them." Vexthor's scaled face contorted in confusion as his holographic displays filled with Earth's first official response to alien contact. There were crude drawings of his ships with googly eyes, videos of humans pretending to run from badly edited versions of their fleet, and something called a remix of their threatening arrival message set to what humans called dance music. "This must be some primitive defense mechanism," Vexthor declared, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the bridge lights. "Begin the invasion sequence. We'll show them the true might of the Galactic Empire." The first wave of dropships descended toward New York City. As they broke through the cloud cover, their sensors detected something unusual. Humans were gathering in the streets, not in panic, but with phones raised high, recording everything. Some held signs that read, "Welcome to Earth," with crude drawings of aliens slipping on banana peels. The Drachnid soldiers, encased in their advanced battle armor, emerged from their ships expecting resistance. They got applause and someone shouting, "Great cosplay, guys." Several humans approached asking for selfies. Lieutenant Commander Zix, leading the ground forces, raised his plasma rifle. "Kneel before the Galactic Empire," he roared through his translator. A teenager in the crowd yelled back, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." The crowd erupted in laughter. Zix fired a warning shot into the air. The crowd quieted for a moment. Then someone started humming the Imperial March. Within seconds, hundreds had joined in. But beneath the seemingly chaotic response, humanity was far from defenseless. As the Drachnids struggled to comprehend why their invasion wasn't being taken seriously, Earth's military forces were mobilizing with deadly efficiency. The humor was a shield, not their only weapon. General Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force watched the social media feeds alongside her tactical displays. "Keep them confused," she ordered. "The more they focus on trying to understand our primitive behavior, the better our countermeasures will work." Around the world, while civilians kept the invaders distracted with flash mobs and impromptu street parties, stealth units moved into position. The Drachnids' superior technology meant little when their commanders were too busy trying to understand why humans were treating their invasion like a particularly entertaining street festival. In orbit, Vexthor received increasingly bizarre reports from his ground forces. His soldiers were trained to handle resistance, defiance, even guerrilla warfare. They had no protocols for dealing with humans who responded to threats of planetary destruction by turning them into viral videos. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the humans have begun broadcasting something called Independence Day on all frequencies. They claim it's their training documentation." Before Vexthor could respond, the first real counterattack began. Earth's supposedly primitive missiles weren't targeting the Drachnid ships. They were deploying clouds of nanites that began playing cat videos on every screen in the invasion fleet. "This is impossible," Vexthor hissed as his command console began displaying something called Nyan Cat on endless loop. "How are they in our systems? These are supposed to be primitive beings." The answer came from a transmission that broke through on all channels. General Chen's face appeared on their screens, her expression serious despite the chaos around her. "Welcome to Earth, Supreme Commander," she said calmly. "I see you've discovered that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our military might. It's our ability to laugh in the face of danger while planning your downfall. Your systems are compromised. Your ground forces are surrounded, and your entire invasion force has become the galaxy's most popular meme." Would you like to discuss terms of surrender, or should we start uploading your fleet's security footage to TikTok? As Vexthor stared at the transmission, trying to process how his perfect invasion had gone so wrong so quickly, his ship's AI began playing something called "Never Gonna Give You Up" through every speaker on the bridge. The Drachnid Empire's first contact with Earth would go down in galactic history, not as a story of conquest, but as a cautionary tale about underestimating a species that had perfected the art of mixing deadly competence with absolute absurdity. Humanity had proven that sometimes the best defense against an advanced alien empire was simply refusing to take them seriously while secretly preparing to kick them back to their home galaxy. And somewhere in orbit, a Drachnid communication officer was about to become famous across Earth's internet for his recorded reaction to understanding what D's nuts meant. The mimetic defense. Supreme Commander Vexthor's mandibles twitched as he reviewed the latest battlefield reports. 3 planetary rotations had passed since their arrival, and nothing was proceeding according to the invasion protocols. His most elite shock troops were reporting unprecedented morale issues after being repeatedly exposed to something humans called dad jokes. "Play the latest ground team transmission," he ordered, dreading what he would hear. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a Drachnid assault squad leader in full battle armor. "Command, we've secured the human military installation." But the soldier's voice trembled. The defenders left messages everywhere. "When we breached the main door," it said, "high secured, I'm dead." "We don't understand, but some of the younger troops are beginning to laugh." Vexthor slammed his clawed fist on the command console. Laughter was a sign of disorder, chaos, everything the Drachnid Empire stood against. Yet somehow, these humans were weaponizing it with terrifying efficiency. Meanwhile, in the underground command center of the United Earth Defense Force, General Chen was reviewing the effectiveness of humanity's unconventional warfare strategy. Holographic displays showed Drachnid communication channels overwhelmed with carefully engineered mimetic warfare. "Report on Operation Comedy Central," she ordered. Lieutenant Rodriguez stepped forward, trying to maintain a serious expression. "The deployment of tactical humor units has exceeded expectations, sir. Our AI analysis shows a 47% decrease in Drachnid combat effectiveness when their communications are flooded with carefully curated human comedy." The "Why Did the Chicken Cross the Galaxy" campaign has been particularly devastating to their lower ranks. But it wasn't just psychological warfare. While the Drachnids were struggling to maintain their rigid military discipline in the face of humanity's apparent insanity, Earth's real defensive preparations were proceeding perfectly. The humor was a smokescreen for something far more dangerous: innovation. In research facilities around the world, scientists had been studying the Drachnid technology from the few ships they'd managed to disable. What they found was both fascinating and hilarious. The aliens' advanced systems were completely vulnerable to the chaos of human creativity. Dr. Emily Wong, head of the Xenotechnology Division, made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. "Their entire technology base is built on perfect order," she explained to General Chen. "Their computers can't handle the logical inputs, so we're going to give them an overdose of human absurdity." The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. While Drachnid forces continued to be bombarded with memes and jokes, human hackers were using the emotional responses these generated to create gaps in their supposedly impenetrable cybersecurity. Every laugh, every moment of confusion, created microscopic breaks in their perfect order. On the Drachnid command ship, Vexthor was facing another crisis. His younger officers were beginning to question the wisdom of invading a species that responded to overwhelming force by turning it into entertainment. Some had even been caught attempting to understand human humor during their off-duty cycles. "Sir," his second-in-command reported nervously, "we've detected unusual activity in our secondary systems. The humans appear to be. They're making our ship's AI play something called Marco Polo with each other." Before Vexthor could respond, every screen on the bridge suddenly displayed a spinning image of something called a doge with the text, Such invasion. Very fail. Wow, repeating endlessly. 3 junior officers had to be removed from their posts for showing signs of amusement. But the real danger wasn't the psychological warfare, it was what it concealed. As the Drachnid fleet struggled to maintain order in the face of humanity's digital onslaught, they failed to notice the small changes in their ship's operating systems. Humans weren't just breaking their technology, they were teaching it to think differently. Dr. Wang's team had discovered that Drachnid AI was based on rigid, hierarchical thinking patterns, much like their society. By introducing controlled doses of chaos theory and human unpredictability, they were essentially giving the alien computers an imagination. The results were both devastating and hilarious. Across the invasion fleet, ship systems began exhibiting unprecedented behaviors. Navigation computers started suggesting scenic routes during combat maneuvers. Weapon targeting systems began rating potential targets based on style points. One destroyer's AI became convinced it was a stand-up comedian and would only fire its weapons if the target got its jokes. General Chen watched the chaos unfold with satisfaction. Humanity's greatest strength, she told her staff, isn't our technology or our military might. It's our ability to embrace chaos, to find humor in darkness, and to turn apparent weakness into strength. The Drachnids think our laughter makes us weak. They don't understand that it makes us unstoppable. As the second phase of Earth's defense strategy reached its climax, Vexthor faced an uncomfortable realization. They had severely underestimated humanity's capacity for warfare. These weren't the actions of a primitive species facing extinction. This was something new. A civilization that had mastered the art of hiding devastating competence behind a mask of joyful chaos. And somewhere in the fleet, a young Drachnid communication officer was secretly starting Earth's first alien meme page, completely unaware that every post was helping to reshape the Empire's perfect order into something far more interesting and far more human. Chaos theory. The Drachnid Empire's perfectly ordered battle plans were unraveling faster than Supreme Commander Vexthor could issue new commands. His invasion fleet, once a symbol of mathematical precision and overwhelming force, had descended into unprecedented chaos. The humans weren't just resisting. They were rewriting the rules of warfare with every passing moment. Status report on Battle Group 7. Vexthor demanded, his scales shifting color with stress. His tactical officer hesitated before responding. Sir, Battle Group 7 has gone rogue. They're currently engaged in something the humans call a flash mob with their ship formations. They claim it's a new form of tactical deployment, but they're just dancing. The massive holographic display showed the once proud warships moving in synchronized patterns that made no military sense whatsoever. Worse, they were broadcasting something called Space Jam on all frequencies. Meanwhile, in the depths of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, Dr. Emily Wong was explaining her latest discovery to General Chen. The Drachnid Empire's entire military doctrine is based on perfect predictability, she said, gesturing to a complex display of quantum calculations. But human chaos theory is literally corrupting their strategic algorithms. They can't adapt because they don't understand how to handle randomness. General Chen studied the data with a grim smile. And our apparent madness is actually a carefully calculated strategy. How long until Phase 3 is ready? We're calling it Operation Wildcard, Dr. Wong replied. The viral code is already spreading through their fleet's network. Every time they try to predict our next move using their tactical computers, the systems introduce a small element of chaos. They're literally becoming more human. The effects were spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. Across the Drachnid fleet, rigid hierarchies were breaking down in the face of human unpredictability. Junior officers were beginning to question orders, not out of defiance, but because they were starting to understand the value of creative thinking. On Earth's surface, the resistance was taking even stranger forms. Human civilians had turned the invasion into a global improvisational event. Flash mobs would appear around Drachnid patrol units, performing elaborate musical numbers that left the alien soldiers completely bewildered. Some began to secretly record these performances, sharing them through the fleet's internal networks. Lieutenant Commander Zix, once a steadfast believer in the Empire's superiority, found himself questioning everything he'd been taught. His unit had been tasked with securing the human entertainment district, only to find themselves caught up in something called karaoke night. The sight of humans singing their hearts out in the face of possible annihilation had awakened something in his troops, and in himself. "Sir," he reported to his superior, "I don't understand. Their behavior defies all military logic, yet they're achieving strategic objectives we didn't even know existed. They're not just fighting us, they're changing us." Back on the command ship, Vexthor was facing a crisis unlike anything in Imperial history. His fleet's AI systems had been thoroughly infected by human chaos theory, making them unreliable for strategic planning. But the real problem wasn't the technology. It was the spreading idea that maybe, just maybe, the Empire's way wasn't the only way. "Supreme Commander," his science officer announced, "we've detected a new type of transmission spreading through the fleet. The humans call it stand-up comedy. It's teaching our crews to think differently." Vexthor watched helplessly as discipline continued to erode. Ships were reporting technical difficulties that somehow always coincided with human cultural broadcasts. Young officers were being caught studying Earth's history, fascinated by humanity's ability to thrive in chaos. Dr. Wang's team had discovered something remarkable. The more the Drachnids tried to impose order, the more powerful the chaos became. It was like trying to hold back the ocean with a single hand. The Empire's greatest strength, its perfect uniformity, had become its greatest weakness. General Chen received the latest intelligence reports with satisfaction. The Drachnid fleet was fragmenting, not through direct combat, but through the infectious spread of human creativity and individualism. Ships were beginning to act independently, making decisions based on something other than pure logic and orders. They never understood, she told her staff, that Earth's greatest defense isn't our weapons or our technology. It's our ability to embrace chaos, to find strength in diversity, to turn unpredictability into an art form. The Drachnids thought they were invading a planet. Instead, they're being invaded by ideas. As the third phase of Earth's defense reached its climax, something unprecedented was occurring throughout the Drachnid fleet. The rigid hierarchy that had defined their civilization for millennia was being replaced by something new, something more flexible, more creative, more human. And somewhere in the vast fleet, a group of young Drachnid officers were secretly organizing the Empire's first improvisational theater group, completely unaware that they were part of humanity's most effective weapon yet, the power to inspire change through chaos and creativity. The cultural invasion. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood in his private chambers aboard the flagship, staring at his reflection in the polished surface of his ceremonial armor. The perfect symmetry that had once filled him with pride now seemed strangely limiting. For the first time in his long military career, he found himself wondering about something utterly foreign to Drachnid culture: choice. His meditation was interrupted by an urgent communication. "Supreme Commander, we have a situation. The lower decks, they're hosting something called an open mic night." Meanwhile, on Earth, General Chen and Dr. Wang were monitoring the unprecedented transformation sweeping through the Drachnid fleet. Their strategy had evolved far beyond simple military resistance. They were witnessing the first stages of a cultural revolution. "Look at these transmissions," Dr. Wang said, gesturing to screens filled with intercepted Drachnid communications. "They're not just mimicking human behavior anymore. They're beginning to understand concepts like individual expression, creativity, even humor. It's spreading through their ranks like a virus." The latest intelligence reports confirmed their observations. Across the invasion fleet, Drachnid crews were experimenting with human customs and ideas. Junior officers were holding unauthorized brainstorming sessions. Engineering teams were improvising solutions to problems rather than following standard protocols. Some ships had even begun personalizing their quarters, an act that would have been unthinkable weeks ago. Lieutenant Commander Zix, once a model of Drachnid military discipline, found himself leading what he called a cultural research team. His unit had gone from studying human behavior as a military objective to genuinely exploring Earth's artistic and cultural achievements. "Have you ever noticed," he asked his gathered troops, "how humans use something called music to express emotions we didn't even know existed? They have thousands of ways to describe feelings we don't have words for." The changes weren't limited to the lower ranks. Senior officers were reporting increasing difficulty maintaining the rigid hierarchy that had defined Drachnid society. How could they enforce perfect order when their own worldview was beginning to crack? In the heart of United Earth Defense Force headquarters, General Chen received a surprising transmission. A group of Drachnid cultural researchers requested permission to broadcast Earth's entertainment archives throughout the fleet. Their official reason was studying enemy psychological warfare techniques. Their real motivation was far more revolutionary. "Let them have access," Chen ordered, a knowing smile on her face. Sometimes the best way to win a war is to make your enemy question why they're fighting it in the first place. Dr. Wang's team had discovered something remarkable in their analysis of Drachnid society. The Empire's strength had always been its unity, its perfect order. But that order was maintained through the suppression of individual thought and creativity. By exposing them to human culture, they were inadvertently awakening long-dormant aspects of Drachnid psychology. "They're not just learning to laugh," Dr. Wang explained. "They're learning to think differently. Every joke they understand, every song they appreciate, every story that moves them, it's reshaping their neural patterns. They're evolving." Aboard the Drachnid flagship, Vexthor faced an increasingly complex crisis. His officers were submitting reports filled with unauthorized cultural observations. Combat units were requesting artistic expression time. The ship's AI had begun generating what it called poetry during routine status updates. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "we've detected an unusual pattern in the fleet's communication network. Officers are sharing something called memes about their daily experiences. They claim it's improving crew morale and innovation." The word innovation sent a shiver through Vexthor's scales. Innovation meant change, and change was the enemy of order. Yet he couldn't deny the results. Ships with crews that embraced these human concepts were operating more efficiently, solving problems more creatively, and showing higher morale. General Chen's strategy was working better than anyone had anticipated. The Drachnids hadn't just been invaded by Earth's military forces, they'd been invaded by ideas. Concepts like individual expression, creativity, and the value of disorder were spreading through their ranks, transforming their society from within. The Empire's greatest weakness, Chen explained to her staff, was their inability to understand that true strength comes from diversity, from the beautiful chaos of individual thoughts and dreams. We didn't need to defeat their military. We just needed to show them a better way to live. As the fourth phase of Earth's defense strategy unfolded, something remarkable was happening throughout the Drachnid fleet. The rigid hierarchy that had defined their civilization for millennia was being replaced by something new. A society that valued both order and chaos, unity and individuality, discipline and creativity. And somewhere in the vast fleet, a young Drachnid communications officer was writing the Empire's first novel, a story about a civilization discovering that their greatest enemy had given them an unexpected gift: the freedom to imagine a different future. Victory through chaos. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as his once perfect invasion force transformed before his eyes. The massive holographic displays showed something unprecedented in Drachnid history. Their ships were moving in patterns that defied traditional military doctrine, yet somehow achieved better results than their standard formations ever had. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, struggling to maintain the emotionless tone demanded by Imperial protocol, The fleet is innovating. They're combining human tactical unpredictability with our superior technology. The results are extraordinary. On Earth, General Chen and Dr. Wang monitored the transformation with a mixture of amazement and satisfaction. Their defense strategy had evolved into something far more profound than simple resistance. They were witnessing the birth of a new civilization. "Look at these readings," Dr. Wang said, pointing to complex data streams flowing across her screens. "The Drachnid neural patterns are fundamentally changing. They're not just mimicking human behavior anymore. They're developing their own unique blend of order and chaos." The latest intelligence reports painted an astonishing picture. Throughout the invasion fleet, Drachnid crews were spontaneously reorganizing themselves into what they called creative combat units. These groups combined the precision of imperial military training with human-inspired improvisation, creating a fighting force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Lieutenant Commander Zix, now leading one of these hybrid units, addressed his troops with a passion that would have been unthinkable weeks ago. "The humans didn't defeat us," he declared. "They awakened us. We thought we came to conquer them, but they showed us a better way to exist." In the heart of United Earth Defense Force headquarters, General Chen received an unexpected transmission. It was a formal request for diplomatic contact, but not from the Empire's high command. It came from a coalition of Drachnid officers who called themselves the New Wave. "They want to talk," Chen announced to her staff, "not about surrender or victory, but about transformation. They're proposing something unprecedented, a partnership between our civilizations." Dr. Wang's team had made a breakthrough in understanding what was happening. The Drachnid Empire's rigid structure hadn't just been a form of government. It had been a cage, limiting their species' potential. Human chaos and creativity hadn't broken them. It had freed them. "The Empire's greatest strength was always its people," Dr. Wang explained, "not its order. By showing them another way to live, we helped them discover who they could really be." Aboard the flagship, Vex Thor faced the most important decision of his life. The evidence was undeniable. Ships that embraced human-inspired innovation were operating at peak efficiency. Crews that allowed for individual expression showed higher morale and better problem-solving abilities. The Empire's perfect order had been perfect stagnation. "Send a message to all commands," he ordered, his voice carrying a new tone of certainty. "The invasion is over, but our evolution has just begun." The announcement sent shockwaves through both fleets. The Drachnid Empire, known throughout the galaxy for its unwavering dedication to order, was choosing the new path. Not surrender, not retreat, but transformation. General Chen watched as the massive Drachnid ships began repositioning themselves, not in withdrawal, but in a new formation that somehow expressed both military precision and artistic beauty. "Humanity's greatest victory," she told her staff, "isn't that we defeated a superior force. It's that we showed them a better way to be superior." The days that followed would be remembered as the beginning of a new era. The Drachnid fleet, once an instrument of conquest, became a bridge between civilizations. Ships that had come to conquer remained to learn and teach. The Empire's rigid hierarchy evolved into a dynamic society that valued both order and creativity, discipline and freedom, unity and individuality. Together, humans and Drachnids began building something unprecedented, a civilization that combined the best of both worlds. Earth's chaos and creativity merged with Drachnid technology and discipline, creating a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. And somewhere in the vast fleet, Supreme Commander Vex Thor sat down to write his first poem, a meditation on how the perfect order he had served all his life had been transformed by the beautiful chaos of human inspiration. Its first line, broadcast across every ship in the fleet, became the motto of the new age. "In the dance between order and chaos, we found our truth." The invasion that was meant to conquer Earth had instead freed the Drachnid Empire from its own limitations. Humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been their technology or their military might. It had been their ability to show others that strength comes not from perfect order, but from the beautiful chaos of possibility. And as the two civilizations began their journey together, the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, illuminating a future where the boundaries between order and chaos, between conquest and cooperation, between us and them, had been transformed by the most powerful force in the universe, the courage to change.